freshman at Sarah Lawrence College.
And as a group, we work to impact our community and spread knowledge about physical and mental health. We address problems and create projects targeted towards teen wellness. You can join our team. We're always looking for new members. We meet about once a week, usually Monday or Thursday afternoon, and all you have to do is click the application link in the chat if you're interested. And with us today, we have our amazing counselors, Ms. Judy Romero, Elaine DeSuze, and Maureen Lynn. If you guys want to introduce yourselves real quick.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Judy Romero, and I'm the mental health specialist at Sequoia High School, and I also direct the Teen Resource Center on campus.
Hello, I am Miss Elaine DeSuze. I am the mental health support specialist at Woodside High School. Nice to see you all and happy to be here.
Hi everyone, I'm Maureen. I work at Sequoia Teen Clinic as a therapist there to provide primary care doctors. Hi, nice to meet all of you.
All right, and then we're going to get started with our objectives. Or sorry, Zoom etiquette with Sierra.
Okay, so just some Zoom etiquette to go over. For closed captioning or subtitles, you can click on the CC icon at the bottom of your screen. And for questions, you can submit them using the Q&A icon on the bottom of your screen. You can use the thumbs up on a question to upvote the questions that you like during the webinar. And you can use the chat to answer questions posed during the webinar, but please don't use it to submit questions.
Right, now we're going to go into our objective. Through this webinar, we want to give students the resources and techniques needed to cope with stress and other mental health issues and the space needed to do so. We want to encourage further education about mental health and encourage students to reach out for help when they need it, that it's okay to not be okay, that there's nothing wrong with asking for help. It shows strength, not weakness. Basically, our main goal is to tear down the stigma surrounding mental health. Before we get started, we're just going to go over the agenda for the day. We're going to start off with some icebreaker polls to get everyone warmed up. Then we're going to play an interview video talking about some coping mechanisms. Then we're going to practice one of these coping mechanisms, which is taking a break. And then we have some breathing and grounding exercises, followed by more polls. And then we have Lena's video where she's going to share her mental health story with us, and a journaling exercise, followed by another break. Then we have a mental wellness exercise with one of our guest speakers who will be joining us a little later. And then we're going to finish off with some resources you guys can access, and then chat time if you want to talk to us.
Okay, so we're going to start off with some icebreaker type polls. So our first poll is on a scale of 1 to 5. How are you feeling today? Let us know. You can probably ignore the second question. Just put a random answer. I'll give you guys about a minute or so to fill it out, and then we'll share the results. Ethan, if you want to end the poll and share the results, we can look at how people are feeling today. Well, okay, we're mostly a 4. Pretty good. Pretty good.
I'm like 5. Yeah, it's good. And if you're at 3, that's okay too.
And then, let's see, we're going to do a couple chat questions if people want to answer these in the chat, and we can look at what other people are saying, what they're doing. So first one is, what are the challenges this year and what are you doing to cope with it? If you guys want to put your answers in the chat, we can.
You can send it to either panelists or panelists and attendees. It's up to you.
We got some good responses so far. We have a lot of time on Zoom, even though this is on Zoom. I would say this is a pretty good way to spend your time learning about the mental health stuff. Let's see, being in the same spot all the time. Yes, especially when you're at school and you have classes back to back. Let's see, someone said it's harder to reach out to teachers, so I try to make most of it in class via emails or office hours. It's pretty good. It's always good to reach out for the support you need. Someone said not being able to spend time with friends in person is definitely something that's kind of hard. Although, I guess you wouldn't want to spend more time on Zoom. Someone said Discord was a helpful way to connect. I would agree. I think that's the way to go so far. I think we can move on to the next question. It's another chat question. How is school going for you? What do you guys, how's school going? And see, someone said they kind of burn out. I would agree. I feel like a lot of people are experiencing this, but you can hopefully use some of the coping mechanisms that we're going to talk about today to help with that. Someone said school has been boring. Okay, that's valid. It's pretty flat. Okay, it's okay. Okay, I've been getting better grades. That's good. That's good. Looks like the school's been okay for majority of people. Maybe it's a little harder, but it's definitely something to get used to. I think that's pretty good for polls.
Okay, thank you all for sharing. Thank you, everyone. You can continue to add if you would like to, but we're going to move on to our next activity, which is, this is our counselor interview video, which is, you see the three amazing counselors that you see here today, Miss Judy Romero, Miss Elaine Dessou, and Miss Marie Lynn. We interviewed them earlier to ask about questions surrounding just like the basis of mental health, the stigma around it, how COVID and all distance learning has changed and affected teenagers' mental health. And we got some amazing insight from all of them because obviously their guidance is so amazing and we really appreciate it. So we highly recommend that you watch this on your own time because we're only going to be watching just a smidget section of it. However, we will put the link in the chat for you all to access it for your own. And we definitely highly recommend that you watch it because it's really insightful and it honestly makes you feel great to listen to this advice. But I'm just going to play the first beginning. I'll put in captions. This one question talking about coping mechanisms.
I think it very easily is, especially for teenagers nowadays. I have two teenagers at home, so I notice a lot of times you have to do Zoom class, so you play games, you're on the social media all the time. And not just teenagers, I think people in general is, we can't sit still and do nothing. If I really ask you, okay, just sit here, no cell phone, nothing, you don't doodle, you don't do it, and then people start to go crazy. Like, what do I do now? And you feel like started to have this anxiety. And I think that's something we can really practice. Sometimes it would be nice for us to allow ourselves to do nothing, kind of to space out. Not necessarily to the point we talked about meditation or breathing technique, but I think it would be nice for us to accept that we can slow down and do nothing and don't have these messages coming to us.
That's a really hard question because I think I really like a lot of coping mechanisms, but I think if I needed to pick one, at Sequoia High School, we're really big on mindfulness, and mindfulness is being in the present moment is sort of calming your mind and your body, right? So I would really encourage students to try it out. You don't know if it's not going to work for you unless you try it out. So breathing exercises could be very simple. It could take you a couple of seconds, or meditation, mindful walking. Like if you go outside and you take a walk and you really pay attention to your surroundings and you really pay attention to the sounds, to what you're seeing, that actually calms you down. So mindful movement. So I would say the mindfulness, and I would encourage students to check out some of the mindfulness apps. So like Headspace or Calm.com, or even the Atlas app that's actually free and made available to all Sequoia district students. You just have to use your Sequoia email in order to, when you register for it. So yeah, those are things.
I think for me, it's just taking a break, like stopping whatever you're doing. And I say that because it's part of our culture now. Like we live in the Silicon Valley, everything's really fast paced. We have easy access to screens where we could just kind of numb ourselves to whatever we're looking at. But unfortunately, it perpetuates some of our mental health illnesses, right? And so I think it's important for us to practice in our life taking breaks and disconnecting completely. That means being in touch with yourself, right? And it's so important because in that practice, one, you'll be able to identify what are your physical symptoms that your body is telling you. Sometimes we get so consumed in what we're doing, we don't even read that. We don't hear it. Like our body's telling us, hey, I need to sleep, right? The sleeping at 1 a.m. and getting up at 7 o'clock isn't healthy and you're tired. Sometimes we're so consumed with what we're doing that we don't hear our signals. And so once you establish identifying that when you take a break, then we could incorporate the things that could actually slow us down, our psychosomatic response, which is breathing, doing some visualization. And I know that we try to implement that in schools and classes sometimes, but it's so important, and it's just kind of this repetition, and it seems mundane and maybe questionable as to whether or not it's working. Um, but I think with consistent practice, like anything else, like in music, like in bands, like in sports, the more you practice, the better you become at it. And I do want our teams to get to that point where they hear their bodies telling them what they need, and then they incorporate the things that will help them, like just calm down and be present.
Awesome. Thank you all for that amazing insight. I always get inspired every time I watch it. I'll stop my share as I ask questions. So attendees, at this time, we would love to open up to questions for the counselors. So right now, if you are thinking about a question, just think about it for a moment. We'll ask a few general questions before that, but please just keep it in your head, and you can definitely use the Q&A at the bottom of your screen to ask questions for these counselors about what they just talked about. So thank you so much, all your insight and amazing. I loved how you all pointed out the importance of taking breaks. And I think that we can all definitely agree that it's something that isn't really, kind of advertised or pushed out there as much as, work hard, but it's just as important and be like equally important in order to work hard. So I think we all could really appreciate how you focused on that. And I guess I had a question for you all, as you've talked about different ways of taking breaks and what that really means. So disconnecting from all your work and kind of taking a step back. I was wondering what your personal favorite ways of taking breaks is, whether it's taking a walk or anything else. If you'd like to open up to share.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people brought it up as taking walks. I mean, and mindful walks, mindful walking, as I tell students, is like go out and take a walk and really pay attention, pay attention to your surrounding. Notice the colors of the flowers, notice the shape of the flowers, notice the homes in your neighborhood, notice the children playing, or pay attention to the sounds, the smells, and that actually really helps you calm down. And it distracts your mind. So if you're thinking about that final, if you're worried about that assignment that's due, it actually distracts your mind. You're not thinking about that assignment at the moment, right? You're paying attention to the present moment. And then another one that I really enjoy is practicing gratefulness, like being grateful for things. And I think being grateful is very powerful. And I definitely practice that. So at night or when I'm feeling really upset about something, or I stop and I think, okay, what am I grateful for today? What are the things that I'm grateful for today? And it kind of brings things back into perspective, right? Or else we feel overwhelmed. So I'll just end with that.
I think for me, it is having physical exercise. I ran track in high school, and I always found that after a tough workout, even if I was complaining about it during the time, I felt really good afterwards. And so just learning about it when I was in grad school, it's just releasing those negative or stress hormones through exercise was really helpful. And that's something that I've consistently practice in my life. I also recall conversations with students who did play sports earlier and then for whatever reasons did not, and then them feeling some disconnect or the stress levels increase during that time. And I always try to relate it back. Okay, how can you do something different if it's not the sport that you are in a team or no longer participating in a team? Can you replace that with something else? So for me, it's been physical exercise, and that's been helpful too. But in addition to that, I have just recently practiced and been trained on mindfulness techniques, thanks to Ms. Romero, and introducing us to Mission B. And I am incorporating that into my life, and that's been really helpful too. So those mindful exercises are great. And I see there are questions, but maybe we could ask it after Miss Lynn speaks.
Hi, so for me, I think what works is I have a dog, so I can play with the pet. So I think that's a good distraction. You can be silly playing with your pet, or if you have younger siblings, I think that's a good way. Another thing is look at the sky. I think look at the open space really helps because we kind of stuck in the house and then our mind kind of gets more rigid. So going out, look at the sky, it really opens up our heart. So that also helped me. Another thing is, I think I agree with Judy, is really we learn to appreciate what we have and also think about the kindness. I think I like to hear or listen to some of the podcasts or read some books. People are really inspirational. I think that's also, we can kind of have those role models for us to become more positive, because a lot of times we can see others, they also gone through the hardship and they made it. And that kind of inspires us to be able to give us some hope, I guess, that sometimes at times like this, we need more positive energies. And meditation is another thing. I think that's a good thing to quiet down the mind. The best is not to think and not let your emotions take over. And while we really do the breathing technique or meditation, is the goal is we realize emotions comes and goes, and it doesn't really, we don't have to really get stuck with it. So those are the things that I have been trying to practice.
It's a really great point. Thank you so much. We are now going to address the Q&A questions that are in the chat to all of you to open it up, whether you want to type answer or speak out loud. One of them says, what are some common problems that people are facing, I guess, currently in COVID form?
In regards to COVID, I think what we're seeing is a lot of feelings of isolation is common, missing being in contact with people and not getting that satisfaction of seeing others just through Zoom or something that's like flat and not three-dimensional. And also, I think this has been increasing prior to COVID, which is anxiety and depression. And I think when you look at the data, there is a link with social media and when it was introduced to the larger population and the usage so there's a direct correlation that we've seen with data. And I think oftentimes when I look at that, we always look at what's being posted, and despite the fact that we don't want it to impact us or influence us, it does. So being mindful that what we post isn't always the realities, but then as a receiver of that information, sometimes we think it is. So that's comparing our lives to others, or only seeing what we are focusing on, right? So when we go into the internet, we could always find information that might justify what our thinking is, but sometimes that has to be challenged, and we're not always exposed to those challenges.
I would just like to add, I mean, I think all students probably would agree with me of Zoom fatigue, right? Everybody's like tired of being on Zoom all the time. But I also want to stress that a lot of students right now are also dealing with grief during COVID, during distance learning. But grief, not only, they might have lost a family member, and that is real grief, but also different types of grief, like they're grieving spending time with their friends every day, you know, seeing their friends at lunch, hanging out at Sequoia Station, as I mentioned in the video. But they're grieving a lot of things that were part of their daily life, right? And so I think we really need to keep that in mind. Yeah, so I think that's one of the things that I definitely have seen.
Thank you.
What I've seen is it's very common. Of course, we see more depression and anxiety. But one thing about fatigue is day in, day out, as I read the comment that you sit at the same space or same spot all day long. So it's kind of, we feel stuck, right? Nothing changed. There is no nuances in your life. If you go to school, I don't like drama, but sometimes drama can kind of gives yourself some excitement as well. But now we don't really have that. Every day is day in, day out. It's the same thing. So a lot of people feel stuck. And I think what really helps is this is a good time for us to not only be mindful, and also probably it's a good time for us to learn some new things and learn different ways to interact with others. As now we're doing the Zoom meeting, I think we have this new technology. We can even talk to people across the globe, right? We can talk to people not here, only in the States. So I think we can also use this opportunity to expand our perspectives, learn more.
Definitely. Thank you. Our next question here, how can you reduce stress? Actually, for the sake of time, we're going to introduce ways of reducing stress, because that is all of our webinar is about. So we will definitely show you different ways and we'll be representing them for you. And hopefully you'll find some of these helpful. So I'm going to share my screen once more and we're going to move on. But thank you, the attendees, for those amazing questions. Let's see if I know how to do this. Oh, there we go. And yes, our next activity is we're going to practice these breaks as all we've been talking about. We've been interacting with these counselors, talking about ways to take breaks, mindfulness walks. Well, right now we're gonna take a 2-minute break. You can even close your computers halfway, probably don't log out the Zoom meeting, but you can take a step back from your computer and maybe take a few breaths and just choose a way to take a break for 2 minutes. We'll have a timer right here. And this is what we want you to practice. Now that we've talked about it, let's just take a break and, move away from the screen. We'll be here and yeah, have fun. All right, now that our 2-minute timer is up, we can all reconvene or slowly put ourselves back, and we are going to continue the webinar. Thank you all so much for taking that break with us. No, okay.
So now we're going to practice a few other breathing exercises and things that you can do besides taking breaks. So the first one we're going to do is you can put your hand on your chest and a hand on your stomach. And we're going to breathe in for 6, hold for 4, and then breathe out for 8. So and hold for 4, 3, 4, and then out for 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And why don't we do a few of these? So do it again. So breathe in for 6. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold for 4, 2, 3, 4, and then out for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll do one more. So we'll go in for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold for 4. Then out for 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, yeah. And for our next one, we'll be doing a grounding exercise. So for this, you're using your 5 senses. So first, look around your space and you can see. And look at them and find little details that you might not have noticed before. just give you seconds to do that. Okay. Once you've finished finding 5 things that you can see, look for 4 things you can feel or touch and try to really notice the texture of it. So, for example, I have a little stuffed animal thing here, so I can feel it and it's really soft. Okay. Next, 3 things you can hear. So this could be anything from like hearing yourself breathe to hearing something outside, hearing my voice, anything works here. Next, we're going to do 2 things that you can smell. So if you have like tea or something next to you, or yeah, just anything, and notice what it smells like. Lastly, we'll do 1 thing that you can taste. So this could be water, it could be just air, or if you have like coffee or tea or something like that, you could take a sip of that. This is also a good reminder to remember to stay hydrated. And that's the exercise. It really helps me when I'm feeling super overwhelmed, and I think it's a really good one to use.
Thank you.
To get back into things, we're going to do a few more polls, a little bit less time. So we're going to go through these a little quicker. So the second poll, if it launches, is what is your Harry Potter house? Fun question. Oh, there's 2 Hufflepuff. Okay. Imagine the last one, Slytherin. Yeah, I think it's enough time, Ethan, if you want to close it, and we'll see what's up. A lot of Gryffindor, okay. Not surprised. A lot of people are Gryffindor. So now we're going to do a question in the chat. What are your favorite cooking skills? So you can write your answer in the chat and then look at what other people said, and maybe you can try them out later on. We got listening to music, deep breathing, watching anime. I like that one. Cooking, that's pretty good. Lifting, yeah, exercise is always good. Someone likes to sing, that's pretty good. Good hobby. A lot of listening to music. Looking at the sky, yes, I also like that one. Yeah, just as you guys read the chat, you guys can look at what other people said. Maybe write them down, try them out later on. I think we'll move on to our last chat question. How have you made friends on Zoom? General question. Maybe it'll help other people who have been having a hard time doing that. just to plug our next, not our next thing, but our last ending thing. So after this webinar, we'll have this regular Zoom meeting so you can see everyone and you can talk and meet people. But that is after this webinar ends. Okay.
Real quick, Emery, there's someone who is raised their hand in the
Raising
chat.
their hand. Who? Let me pull it up.
I can allow them to talk, or if you want to talk, or to chat, but I will allow you to talk if you would like to have something to say.
Q&A network. Does Q&A network? I didn't put your question in the chat if you have a question.
Oh. Yeah, so if you have a question, please.
I don't see anything. Yeah, if you have your hand raised, maybe just put it in the chat to the panelists and then we can either answer your question or something else. Looks like people are making friends on Discord. It's pretty good. I think that's a very social way. Or in breakout rooms. It's pretty nice, you know.
I just got introduced to Discord this year, so that's very interesting. That's a new platform.
Yeah.
All right. So whoever raised their hand, if you could put your question in the chat or the Q&A, that would be awesome. We are going to move on.
All right, now we have Lena's video, which is about her journey with mental health.
Hey there, my name is Lena Kalodios and I'm a Youth Advisory Board alum. I graduated from Menlo Atherton High School back in 2020 and I am currently a freshman at Sarah Lawrence College in New York, primarily studying psychology. YAB is very near and dear to my heart because they were the first youth mental health organization that I joined after I began my own journey with suicide and depression, amongst other things. I was looking for a local community of individuals who shared similar values as I did and really wanted a more open, honest dialogue about mental health and mental illness. And that here. I am so incredibly proud to be able to stand before you all today, well, metaphorically. Yet none of this has come easy. Throughout my mental health journey, I've come across various sources of stigma and a general hesitancy to talk honestly about the topic. Why is it that 1 in 5 people will experience a mental illness in their life, yet the negative stigma is still so vivid? Stigma and hesitancy go hand in hand. Specifically, the hesitancy comes from the stigma. So, in order to overcome the stigma, we've got to address the hesitancy first. And that starts right here, right now. I'm not only confronting that by eventually sharing my own story here today, yet you all are as well, by showing up, educating yourselves, and supporting others who haven't quite found their own voice yet. Of course, I'm hesitant to share my own story, but I'm not doing this out of fear. I am doing this to reclaim my own narrative from the stigma that silenced me for such a long time. So much so that it hindered my ability to speak up and get the help that I needed for a while. I believe the best way to alleviate the stigma is to share real-life stories about the good, the bad, and everything in between. I hope by doing so today that I can inspire others to share their story as well. My journey began freshman year of high school and still continues to this day, 4 years later. Depression, anxiety, 4 suicide attempts in 3 years, PTSD, and an eating disorder. I've been around the block, And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It wasn't, hasn't been, and still isn't easy. Countless hours of treatment, moments, days, weeks of hopelessness, struggling in school, financial tension, family tension. It's all very real, but it's not what's wrong with me, it's what I've been through, and it's how my struggles have fortified the person that I am today. The person that I am so, so proud to be today. No flowers without rain, and I wouldn't be here today without the rain to my blossoming flowers. I say this all as I am still in treatment, still a work in progress, still trying to find my feet on the ever-shifting ground. Progress and change can take a long while, usually isn't linear, and sometimes isn't even detectable in the present. Yet without a doubt, change is real, and it will come in all due time. I am living proof of that change. Stigma is often perpetuated by people and media who don't understand the full scope of mental health and mental illness. One way to go about that, besides me sharing my story as I did, is to educate others on what mental health really is and what it really means to them. This encompasses the social, cultural, gendered, racist, classist, etc. stereotypes that feed into mental health stigma. I hope by being here today, you've already learned something or have yet to learn something and will come out with maybe a new perspective from our open dialogue here. I hope this encourages you to seek out the mental health services that you may or may not need. And I hope my story empowers you on your own journey too. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm gonna stop the share.
Thank you, Elena, for sharing your story with us. And if anybody has any questions, you can put them in the Q&A. Okay, so far we have 2 questions for Lena. They're asking, do you journal?
I do. Journaling is one of my favorite things to do, whether that's in a notebook or on my computer. I journal probably every day. And it's not so much like the stereotypical, like, dear diary, here's what I'm feeling, but just anything that I feel like I need to get out at the end of the day, I do. And my journal is for my eyes only. So it's, it's just myself and the words on the paper. It's another place to kind of hold my own emotions when I don't want to hold them by myself. So if you don't journal, you should try it.
Thank you for sharing. And we have another question. They're asking what advice you would give to others who are getting help and still struggling with mental health.
I would say if you are getting help and still struggling, well, you've taken the first step, because getting help is half the battle when it comes to almost any adversity or challenge in life. So you're getting help. Now it's a question of what more do you need? I would say really utilize any resources that you can, especially when it comes, really utilize any resources that you can when it comes to mental health, because it's such a privilege. And if you're still struggling, the best thing to do is to reach out to your care team, a trusted adult, anyone who is in that field of helping you in any way, shape, or form. Because sometimes you may be struggling and you truly don't know what to do, but others are there for that reason to help you out. So voice your concerns to those in your life whom you trust.
Yeah, and to add on what you're saying, we have mental specialists here that you guys can contact from your schools, and they're all amazing people. So feel free to reach out to them anytime. And someone wrote a really nice question for you in the Q&A. They asked, "How are you such an awesome person?" That's
I believe that people are a sum of all their past experiences, the good, the bad, everything in between. So I'm just me.
and you're perfect just the way you are.
Thank you.
Hi there. My name is.
With knowing how to share a screen, you all. Thank you all for struggling with me. All right. Thank you so
Hi there.
much, Elena. We are going to change up the schedule a little bit, and we're going to introduce Melissa, who's here with us.
So Melissa, we won't read this out, but so Melissa's here to do a mindfulness exercise with us. So you, if you would like to, you can introduce yourself and do
Hi,
the exercise.
everybody. Yeah, I'm very honored to be here. I'm Melissa Ambrose, and I use she, her, hers pronouns. I couldn't figure out how to change it in my Zoom, my little Zoom box. I am the wellness coordinator for Jefferson Union High School District, and that is northern San Mateo County, Daly City, Pacifica, weirdly Brisbane, and the very, very few people who live in Colma. And I've been, so I'm a mental health, I was a teacher for a long time, like 9-10 years in the high school district. If you guys know about Oceana High School, I spent most of my career there. 9 years as a teacher, 12 or 13 years as the wellness counselor, which is the mental health person on staff. And then I moved now to a district position. So I kind of work with all the wellness counselors in the district. And so I'm really honored to be here. Tamara invited me, and I also just think your advisory council and whatever, I'm not fully sure exactly what you guys do, but wish that we could replicate this in our district. So feeling a little envious, like happy envy, and just really moved, really actually, that there's so many people on this call after school. When you guys have been Zooming your brains out now for a year. So I have just a lot of deep respect for you all. So I was invited, I believe, to lead a mindfulness exercise. I sincerely apologize for not having done my homework well enough. How long would you like to, how long would you guys like me to do this for?
That is a great question. Yeah, we'd appreciate 2 minutes tops. You're able to?
2 minutes. Okay.
Minutes 3.
3. I'm going to pull 3 out of you if possible. Is that okay?
That's completely cool.
It's really hard. So the exercise I'm going to give you, and I'll just give a quick intro because I know, time is of essence for you all. You guys hear me? I just realized my microphone was behind my head. How embarrassing. The district just gave me this new fancy little headset, so I wouldn't have sound problems anymore. This exercise I'm going to give you is a mindfulness exercise, but it's also, it's an exercise to help you soothe your nervous system. And so one of the things that's really important for us as people is to learn when we're starting to feel anxious or upset or distressed. There's nothing wrong with those feelings. But if they persist, then they can kind of take over and make us start to feel like our lives are not well lived. The other thing is when the nervous system is in its distressed state, it's just much harder to think. I think you guys all know that. It's hard to think clearly and make wise and healthy decisions. So one of the reasons why I like to teach mindfulness is because I do actually believe it offers us choice. So the more space we have in the prefrontal cortex, the more we're online with our soothed nervous system, the more thinking we can do, and the more we can say, if I scream at my parents right now, then I won't get to leave the house tonight. And what I really need for my well-being is to go be with my friends, because that's how I get soothed. So I'm not going to scream at them, even though I want to. Right? That's choice. And that makes it doesn't mean that we're asking you to not be mad at your parents. It's just like, how can you kind of maneuver things so that things feel a little less stressful, especially these days, because things are stressful. So this exercise that I'm offering you is also going, like if you do it on your own, can help you soothe your nervous system. So I had called it a body scan, but really what we're going to be doing is going to be called grounding. So the other thing is, if you're ever back in person or ever in your life and someone says, let's do mindfulness now, everybody close your eyes. That is can be a problematic instruction. Many of us do not feel safe with our eyes closed, especially in classes when we're in room with other students. We just don't, lots of people need to have their eyes open to feel safe. So you do whatever you want with your eyes. Many mindfulness traditions practice solely with their eyes open. Okay, so it's not more mindful or less mindful to open your eyes or close your eyes. One of the reasons I close my eyes is because I'm very distractible, a highly distractible person, especially these days on Zoom 24/7, and little machines are now built into every second of my life. I close my eyes to eliminate the visual field of distraction. But I want to be really clear, especially when we're talking about mental health, nobody should ever tell you it's better or worse to close your eyes to do anything. I mean, it's hard to sleep with your eyes open. So peace on that. But it's really important for you to learn what's safe for your body, for you to learn to read the messages that your body is wise. Your body has profound wisdom for you. And don't let anybody tell you how to direct and run your body. So if your body says no to eyes closed, then no to eyes closed. Honor that. That's a beautiful message. That's and the more we can honor the real messages our bodies are teaching us, I think that the higher the quality of life we have, regardless of our situation. So that's my little spiel. That being said, if you feel like closing your eyes, please feel free to do so. If the people that are on the panelists, if you feel like turning off your camera so that people aren't sitting there looking at your sweet face with your eyes closed, even though it's really usually such a beautiful sight, do that. If you also feel like turning away from the camera, do that. Take care of yourself. And we'll just do a really quick practice and you'll follow along to my guidance. So we'll get started here. Eyes open, eyes closed. There'll be a bell at the beginning and a bell at the end. So we're going to do a short grounding practice. And I'd like you to just start this practice by taking 3 very intentionally deep breaths. So you're going to fill your lungs from the bottom to the middle to the top. Even hold your breath for a moment at the top. And then a long, slow, smooth exhale. We call this full belly breathing. Some people call it vase breathing because you fill a vase of water first from the bottom to the middle to the top. And then if you imagine the water pouring out of a vase in a long, smooth stream of water. This is a kind of breathing that you can replicate on your own. If you do 5 minutes of breathing like this, it can totally reset your nervous system. And whenever you're done with your 3 breaths, go back to your regular breathing. Just notice what your breathing is like. And then for grounding, we're just going to drop all of our attention into the parts of your body that are making contact with the surface beneath it. So if you're sitting, that would be the chair. And if you're leaning against the back of the chair, that would include your back and your butt and your legs. Maybe your feet are touching the floor. If you're standing, it would be your feet. And I want you to just sink your attention into what does it feel like to be supported? Not what are your thoughts about being supported? And your brain will do thinking. That's what brains do. It's okay. But what does it feel like? What are the sensations? Check out the pressure, the temperature, the texture, the density. And if there's any places that feel pleasant, it doesn't have to be like the best feeling you've ever had, just pleasant. Rest your attention there for 3 to 5 to 10 seconds. Our brains focus on the negative and they don't hold positive sensations or experiences very well. So we want to train our brain to notice the pleasant. And then extending this just a little further, I'd like you to sense into the fact the surface beneath you is being supported by a surface beneath it. And that surface is being supported by something until you get to the earth. So right now, in this moment, the earth is holding us. Right now, in this moment, the earth is stable and still. And see if you can feel that support that is coming naturally from this earth. And some people even like to take this moment to imagine that you are like a tree and there's roots growing out of the bottom of you, out of your feet, out of your butt, out of your legs, anchoring you to the earth. Deep in the earth, deriving nutrients and nutrition, and that your body is like the trunk and your head is the crown of the tree reaching up into the sky. And if that image doesn't work for you, that's okay. And then just really feeling that support again. This technique we're doing is called grounding. And then whenever you're ready, you can just let the imagery fall away. Find your breath and your body again. And just quickly check in and see how you're doing right now. Ask your body how it feels. It's absolutely okay if there's nothing different or better than there was before. It might even be worse. That's okay too. And then we'll just finish when the bell rings. So that was, and people can do grounding in other ways. I want to make sure you guys know that, like, you can push against a wall, you can push against a table, you can push your back against a wall. There's lots of ways to do it. But that was just one quick offering that was sort of mindfulness plus grounding.
That was awesome. Thank you, Melissa. And sorry, like absolutely cut you on time. I was like 2 minutes. Sorry, I don't know what I was saying. Thank you. But thank you so much for the exercise.
I gave you guys 4 minutes. It's almost impossible. I do, it's too much to talk through to do it in less, but
it's absolutely cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Really awesome. And while we are on time, we are going to continue, but just counselors, if you have somewhere to be, you are completely free to drop off, or you can continue to hang out with us because we have one more exercise to go through.
I'll stick around for a few, but I might drop out. Thank you guys.
That'd be awesome. Thank you. All right. Oh, and there's also some really nice comments in the chat if you would like to look at those. Okay, this exercise, if you're all still with us hanging out and feeling kind of woozy and grounded, I know I'm kind of trying to recover now, but here journaling is going to be our next exercise. I'm going to stop my share for this. So this is the part where we're actually going to use the pen or writing material that we requested you have, or a piece of paper or something to write on. So if you can get that out now, or just like quickly scope around your house and find or scrabble for anything, this is where we're going to practice some. Oh, nice. Okay, awesome, Sabrina. Cool. This is when we're going to practice a form of journaling. I kind of call it a flowchart journaling, but there's many different types, and there's not really rules when you think about it. Like, there's different examples, like a gratitude journal, as Miss Romero said earlier, just like continuously writing about what you're grateful for is a way. A ranting journal, like when you're really mad at someone, you just want to keep on writing that down. I know that my sister does that a lot, probably likely about me, but there's many different ways of journaling. This one specifically helps whenever you're in a certain situation where you can't calm down and you're emotion heavy and you're thinking more emotionally than logically. This is a way to kind of identify your emotion and put it on paper, something visually, so you can understand it. Because I can guarantee you, when you're dealing with a hard emotion and you're stressed, you're lonely, you're upset, you're scared, you're angry at yourself, you're ashamed, any of these floating around, you can put more emotions in the chat, anything, like just highlight that one emotion that you're feeling it's hard to deal with it and kind of get out of that space when it's just all in your head, when you're just thinking through it. So it's always easier, just like how that's why therapy works so well. Okay. Just like that's why therapy works so well, because you're expressing what's happening in your head and you're putting it outward and you're saying it vocally. Here, you're saying you're putting it visually. So it's always helpful to have that guide and the aid. Thank you, Ms. Marie. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Now we're going to start. So right now we're going to practice just any emotion. Choose one that you're feeling currently or an emotion that you feel often. Right now, I'm just going to have a basic one, just stressed out. So I'm going to write at the middle of my paper. I'm going to write stressed in all big, all caps, because I don't know, I like to exaggerate. But that's what I want you guys to do. So write in the middle of your paper a certain emotion that you want to attach to. Just a single one, just choose it, and you can circle it if you want. Just kind of lay it out there. Like, that's what I'm feeling. That's the first step. Now, this is when it comes into a flowchart type of perspective. Now it's in the middle of your paper and you're thinking, okay, what about it? What about this stress that I'm feeling? Now, just try to write anything that immediately pops into your head whenever you think about stress or why you're feeling stressed at this instant. Like right now, I'm going to say homework as an example. This is an example of homework. And by the way, as actually Lena mentioned earlier, journals are personal. Like, they're not meant to be shared. So you can be completely, it's all about you and you know yourself the most. So you can say random examples that just words that make sense to you when you say this word. It doesn't have to make sense as long as it makes sense to you, because that's what's awesome about journals. They're personal and they're for you. I'm just going to write examples. This is absolutely examples for me. So just keep on writing down things, and you're going to write them down smaller all around, encompassing this huge word stress or whatever emotion you choose. So I'm going to say homework, a job, responsibility. Just take a few moments to keep on writing these words or phrases. You can say, mention a person, mention something, mention a name, mention anything that you want. Anything that immediately goes into your head when you're thinking about that emotion. So I'm gonna keep writing. All right, now that you've taken a few moments to write down more, you can keep going. I'm just gonna move on to the next part. You have a bunch of random words here. You have a bunch of words that correlate with this main point. Thank you, Lena, for coming. Thank you. And they're all encompassing this one word. Now, the next part is to try to put some ground to it. Try to understand how these words connect. So I'm just gonna put some arrows around here and say, okay, homework, that kind of relates to stress, that kind of relates to this other thing, responsibility and homework, that kind of aligns. And so now I'm going to draw arrows around in my paper, and I'm going to connect these words together. Why do they remind me? And I can write a little description like responsibility, homework, and that makes me feel like I have a lot of expectations. So I'm going to write that to connect that arrow. So now we can look at these different words and try to connect them together, try to see how they work. And this will come naturally, automatically. When you're writing these words, you'll connect them all together. You're like, oh, hey, that correlates with that, that correlates with that. So this is the flowchart aspect. Keep on drawing arrows and connecting these points together and making little notes to yourself like, oh, maybe that's why I'm feeling this way, and like kind of psychoanalyze yourself for a moment, like, oh, maybe it's because this. And whatever you do about journaling that really helps is you never stop writing. Just keep writing and keep on flowing through what you're thinking about and keep on putting it on this piece of paper. It's going to take a few moments to keep on drawing these arrows, connecting. So while you're doing this, you can continuously do this for as long as you want. It fills up the entire page that you have. But when you're done, well, when you feel like you're done, you'll find that you've calmed down a little bit. And if you still feel like you're in the same place that you are, that's okay too, because you can take a step back and you can hold this at length a little farther away from you and just look at it as a whole. Just take a moment, put your pen down and look at it. and just read through it and just understand that, hey, that's what was happening in my brain just now. And then you see it's all visually on a piece of paper. So that kind of is a way to detach those emotions and see them. It's okay if you still feel that emotion. That's not really the point, to like kind of be like, oh no, I don't want to feel stressed anymore. It's more of calming down from that emotion and understanding it, trying to process through what's happening. So now that you take the moment, you can look at it and just take a moment and say, okay, that's that. And you'll see through that entire time, that entire exercise, you were writing down these thoughts, you're slowly calming down. You're slowly starting to understand what's happening. So that's, and then you also have just a nice piece of paper, exploring your thoughts. And so you always have that with you. So that's an interesting way of journaling flowchart style. Thank you all for doing that bit to me, that journaling exercise. Now we're going to move on. Thank you all, by the way, for staying and doing that with me.
So now we're going to show you all some resources. We compiled a slide deck with a bunch of different mindfulness apps and breathing exercises, some hotlines, the interviews, and different services for different schools in the district. And you can also check out the Teen Wellness Center, which we kind of represent. And you can visit the website if you want to make an appointment. We also got more stuff over here and some different other projects you can check out if you want to learn. And don't forget to share and join if you want to. We're always accepting applications and new members, and you can check that out with the link on the slide.
Right. So when you have this link, the link is absolutely open, so you can completely look through this. All of the links are clickable. We didn't get through this exercise, but the breathing animation is really cool. Highly recommend you check it out.